my views on guns can change.
Okay, so for me, I would say my views on guns has changed greatly just from the beginning of this year and from years before. And I think everyone's opinion can change.
I find that being open-minded and having the mindset where your ideas, your thoughts can be malleable, open to new evidence, new opinions, I find that makes you a more worldly person.
I agree with JT completely. I guess really in any situation, not even just like guns, but keeping an open mind is always the first way to cross that bridge.
I think that the events that have happened over the past few years have certainly changed my point of view a little more than I would have expected.
I think America has a problem with mass shootings.
I think with everything you see these days, it's just a fact. I think the real question is if gun control is the cause of that.
Other countries have been able to handle this issue in ways that our country currently isn't, and that while I don't think that I know the answer or have the best solution, I think that there's something that needs to be done, and our generation can definitely do things to make the people in office know that we think something's wrong and that something should be done in the best way possible.
Yeah, and I think everyone agrees that we need to have a solution to this problem. It's just we differentiate in the execution of that.
Right, and that's when like kind of the is it a red or blue issue kind of comes in, and I think that there's ways and situations where it could become that, but I also think that it's also just like a saving people's lives issue, and can be something that becomes a much more independent, meet in the middle thing for sure.
Yeah, I remember reading something about how the United States people own or have bought so many more guns than any other country in the world, but we also are our numbers are so much higher in shootings around the country, and I think that it's just insane to see like the next countries. I don't know enough about that statistic to say what the numbers were exactly, but it was just crazy to think that we haven't, since these big, school shootings, the one in Parkland, have come, that we haven't come up with something really cracked down on this issue, because it's something that our generation, along with, issues such as climate change, which is another huge part of something we're going to have to deal with, that we haven't come up with something, our government leaders haven't come up with something to like make us feel safer in schools and safer just in our lives in our country.
And I think adding on to that and the blue-red issue, politicians are sort of taking advantage of this issue and to support their own interests and wherever the money is coming from. And instead, I think we just need to realize that people's lives are being lost, and we're all going to disagree in some way, but we need to reach answers instead of just keep fighting and having this conflict.
I believe using guns for hunting or recreational purposes is okay.
Based off of my life, I know I've been hunting before, and I know a lot of people I know hunt, and I think it's just sort of, that's what we've done for most of human history, and guns are part of that.
I think recreational gun use is definitely intrinsic to this nation, and to take that away, I think would be harmful to the country. So.
Yeah, it's like saying if they could take away that right, what else could they take away from us? Like next, our freedom of speech or whatnot, because all of those values, all of those in our amendments in our Constitution, they all go with one another. So, and they're all relatively, in our minds, equal to one another. Maybe not in today's culture. We think that freedom of speech or freedom of press, any of these things, they might go higher than right to own your own arms, but in reality, they all go together, and to take away one is to just say, what else could the government take away from it?
From the political point of view, it's the idea of your rights being infringed upon, and It's the idea of how far the government can go of taking away your freedom.
The reason this country is so successful is because we put a high value on personal freedoms, and I think intertwined with the gun debate is the debate, as Ken said, of how far should the government go to regulate these kind of things. And in this case, I feel the government has no need to stymie recreational gun use.
As long as it is done safely.
Right.
If a person with a criminal record involving a gun comes out of jail, should they be allowed to have a gun or be allowed to own a gun?
Right. None of these issues, I think, are very black and white. I think that's a broad group of people we're talking about, and to deny them a right that they currently have under the legislation we have in place would be unjust in a sense, I think.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. I just feel like, I guess I would understand the reasoning, obviously, as to why they shouldn't have a gun, but you're denying someone a right for... No, I mean, I guess there's a good reason, but like if you're going to do that, then there are so many other avenues that you could go down. And then that just ends up going back to what we had before for like how far should the government be able to go in terms of like regulating that stuff. And then it's just even more gray areas.
And another point that I think is important is the fact that to take away someone's right to a gun after they've been incarcerated, though it may seem as a just punishment, it's not. I feel like it wouldn't be taking into account the full spectrum of what transpired to get them to be incarcerated. So, yeah.
The part that Spencer brought up that interested me was like the idea of taking away someone's freedom, which we were talking about just over the last two questions of part of the reason why we think people should be allowed to have guns is because it's part of our freedom, although taking that away, is that justified or not?
I mean, for me, they abused that right, and so it should be taken away. I mean, of course, every instance is different, but they could have endangered someone else. If they were using a gun for a crime, they were probably using it in order to, like, maybe they would use it on someone. I mean, it's a hard question, but I just think we need to keep guns out of people who would do wrong with them and hurt another person, and that person who went to jail because of a gun. I mean, it fits that definition.
Though I agree with you, the taking away someone's gun after they've been incarcerated for a gun-related crime isn't going to assure the fact that they're not going to commit a violent act again. Yeah. It's just taking away one method of doing that. So is it more effective to have that person able to have guns in the system, being regulated by the government and being tracked by the government, or is it better for them to have, say, black market guns or something like that?
Yeah, I guess that raises the question, does it help or hurt the issue by restricting people purchasing them? I think that's kind of what you're getting at, is if you're taking them away, that doesn't A, guarantee they're not going to get guns from the black market, or B, guarantee that they're not going to commit another crime. But on the other hand, that doesn't guarantee that they're not going to learn from that experience and decide that what they did was wrong and learn how to safely use guns. And so I think that's definitely a very difficult thing to just decide on with such broad situations taking place involved in it.
Will banning guns bring down the death rate in America?
Not having guns will definitely bring down the death rate because people are dying from guns too often. I think even like accidental deaths take place with guns, and so not letting the public have access to them would bring down the death rate.
There's also the other side of it. What if people are having guns from the black market? And that's a whole nother side of it. But it's if we just took it out, then that would take out so many deaths per year that would definitely lower the rate.
Yeah, I guess one counter argument I see coming is that like guns are not the only thing that are killing people, obviously, but if we think about the accessibility of guns, like that in itself is going to end up taking away at least one life, or one life lost, I should say. So by default, it brings down the death rate.
And if guns are banned, what does that do to the black market with guns? Does that decrease it? How that plays in is also a very interesting piece to the question, and how that would affect the death rate caused by guns.
Disagrees.
The real question with that is, how do you take guns out of the house or out of people's hands if you were to ban them? Because there are so many guns in circulation already that taking them out it's very difficult, and then you have it flooded with the black market.
Yeah, like for the record, I'm for gun control and like making higher legislation and background checks and such, just to take away the super easy way people can get guns through like gun shows and such, and like people our age and younger getting guns. Do I think that's going to take away the death tolls and people still killing each other? No, because there are always going to be guns that are grandfathered in. There are always going to be ways to get guns. Like right now, there's more guns in America than people. There's no way you're going to be able to take all of them away, especially when looking at the pushback we're facing even now. But I do think there are necessary steps need to be taken to lower those death tolls, even if it's just by a couple numbers.
Final question. Are guns the biggest problem in America? Disagrees coming in.
It's in the forefront of the news and such today because legislators can make a move in 2 years, like in their term. And it's an easier problem to solve than, say, like a massive movement to regulate food to make sure like nothing's egregiously unhealthy. Like it's a problem that legislators can tackle, whereas other problems which more focus on lifestyle can't be solved as easily.
I personally do not believe that guns are the biggest problem that America's facing, because with the guns and all the shootings we have these days, there's always another part going along with the guns, whether that's mental health, which is the reason motivating them to do this, or it's just the situation that people are in these days.
I think gun violence is a large problem today. Personally, I think political polarization is the most important problem because it halts all cooperation together to fix problems. And so I do think gun control and the problems JT was mentioning and many other problems are very prominent in today's society. But is it the most prominent? I don't think so.
I feel like this has been a great safe space for us to just kind of get out our ideas, and has helped me figure out how I feel on the issue and on different specific topics within the issue or subtopics within the issue. And I think it's a great way for our community to really see that these conversations are good things to keep going, and that our generation has a lot to keep doing.
And I think our views were surprisingly similar despite being on opposite sides, supposedly. I was really surprised at the responses because they're not what I expected.
Going back to what Kent said about the mental health epidemic, it's largely intertwined with the issue we were just discussing. And guns are lethal, and they're a contributor to many deaths across the country. I think the forefront issue is the problem we have in our society at the moment, where kids such as the Columbine shooter are so alienated from society that they feel like that they go to shoot up a school. Like their anger towards society and towards people, that's what's causing the violence. The guns are just a method of killing people.
Because school shootings are just so close to me in particular, because because we're students in right now, that is what we do, and it's something we sometimes have to worry about every day, even if it's not at the front of our minds. And in my opinion, based off of what I've learned from experiences, mental health has always been one of the main reasons that would lead someone to think about it.
At the end of the day, if we take guns away, like, does that solve anything? Not really. I mean, in terms of like some of the points that are brought up, like there are so many other ways to get around that's not really the issue. But like what you were saying, Ken and JT, like mental health, things like that, I feel like it was good that all of us had an understanding that like guns weren't, we can't just pinpoint that as a problem, but like it's just so much deeper than that.
There's things connecting, and it's not just the guns. It's mental health. It's the security in the schools. There's so many different elements to it that come up that are underneath it, but we need to be aware of them because they're not. It doesn't just come from like that. That was just like the Columbine shooting. That was just he was using the guns to hurt people, but the anger that he felt, and we need to solve why did he feel that anger?